The challenge. The alien commander stood on the bridge of his massive warship, gazing out at the swirling stars of deep space. His name was General Zarn, and he was feared across the galaxy for his ruthless tactics and immense firepower. Today was a special day. Zarn had just completed a new weapon, a colossal war machine he called the Beast. It was a terrifying creation, designed to crush any opposition with its sheer size and power. General Zarn was a tall, intimidating figure with dark green skin and sharp, angular features. He had been planning for this moment for a long time. The Beast was equipped with advanced weaponry, including plasma cannons and energy shields, making it almost invincible. Zarn's eyes gleamed with pride as he thought about the destruction the Beast would bring to his enemies. On Earth, far from the alien warship, a very different scene was unfolding. In a high-tech command center, Colonel James Thompson was in charge of coordinating Earth's defenses. He was a veteran of many battles, known for his calm demeanor and sharp wit. Today, his team had just received alarming news. The aliens had launched their most powerful weapon, and it was headed straight for Earth. Colonel Thompson leaned back in his chair and looked at the screen displaying a live feed of the Beast. His team, a group of skilled and experienced soldiers, gathered around him. They watched in stunned silence as the colossal machine moved through space. The Beast was indeed a sight to behold, with its enormous metallic frame and glowing energy lines. After a few moments of silence, one of the soldiers, Sergeant Lisa Reynolds, broke the tension with a chuckle. "Wow, that thing looks like it could crush a planet," she said, shaking her head. The rest of the team looked at her, puzzled. Colonel Thompson smirked and replied, "I think it's more of a big puppy than a beast." He gestured towards the screen, where the Beast was now approaching Earth's atmosphere. "Let's call it Pup for now." The team laughed. It wasn't that they weren't taking the threat seriously. It was just that Thompson's lighthearted approach helped ease their nerves. As the Beast continued its approach, Thompson and his team began making plans. They knew they had to act quickly to protect their planet. In the alien command center aboard the Beast, General Zarn was confident of an easy victory. He watched the Earth's defense systems on his screens, noting their efforts to prepare for the incoming assault. Zarn's aides buzzed around him, preparing for the final launch sequence. The general's arrogance was evident as he declared, "Prepare to unleash the Beast. Let's show them the true meaning of power." Back on Earth, Colonel Thompson and his team worked tirelessly to devise a strategy. They analyzed every possible angle of attack and came up with innovative plans to neutralize the threat. Their approach was to use unconventional tactics that the aliens would not expect. Thompson knew that direct confrontation with the Beast would be disastrous, so he focused on using their agility and creativity to their advantage. The alien commander's confidence was not without reason. The Beast was indeed an impressive piece of machinery, and its firepower was unmatched. But Colonel Thompson believed that humans had something that aliens often underestimated: ingenuity. While the alien forces were preparing for what they thought would be a straightforward victory, the human team was busy setting traps and preparing their own countermeasures. As the hours ticked by, the tension on both sides grew. The alien warship approached Earth's orbit, and the Beast prepared for its first strike. On the surface, human forces were readying themselves. Soldiers, engineers, and scientists worked together to ensure that their defenses were as effective as possible. The atmosphere was electric with a mix of anticipation and determination. Colonel Thompson gathered his team for a final briefing. He addressed them with a mixture of seriousness and encouragement. "We're up against a formidable opponent, but we have something the Beast doesn't: creativity and teamwork. Let's show them what we can do." The team nodded in agreement, their resolve solidifying. They knew that the coming battle would test their skills and courage. But instead of feeling overwhelmed, they were motivated by the challenge. The nickname Pup had become a rallying point, a reminder that despite the aliens' imposing weapon, they were ready to fight with everything they had. As the Beast descended towards Earth, the alien forces were eager to see their plans come to fruition. They had no idea that the human defenders were not just preparing to repel an attack, but were planning a counteroffensive that would turn the tide of the battle. The stage was set, and the clash between the massive alien machine and the resourceful human defenders was about to begin. The challenge was clear. The aliens had unleashed their most powerful weapon, but the humans were determined to prove that even the most fearsome adversaries could be overcome with cleverness and courage. In the final moments before the confrontation, Colonel Thompson took a deep breath and looked at his team. They were ready. The challenge had been accepted, and the battle for Earth's survival was about to begin. The beast revealed as Earth's defenders prepared for the incoming threat, General Zarn was savoring a moment of triumph on his warship. The beast, his greatest creation, was now fully operational and ready to prove its might. The enormous machine was more than just a weapon, it was a symbol of alien power. It stood tall and imposing, its metallic frame reflecting the cold light of space. The alien command center was buzzing with excitement. Zarn's officers and engineers worked feverishly, ensuring every system was functioning perfectly. On the main screen, a holographic display showed the beast in all its glory. Its massive cannons, gleaming energy shields, and powerful thrusters were all perfectly aligned. Zarn's yellow eyes glowed with satisfaction as he observed his creation. "This is it," Zarn announced, his voice echoing through the command center. "Prepare to deploy the beast. Let's see how Earth deals with our power." Across the galaxy, back on Earth, the mood was far from celebratory. Colonel Thompson and his team were closely monitoring the alien warship as it approached their planet. The human team had been working around the clock, setting up defenses and planning their strategy. Despite their best efforts, they couldn't ignore the awe-inspiring sight of the beast as it neared Earth. The team gathered around a large screen in their command center, which displayed live footage of the beast. Its size and design were unlike anything they had ever seen. The machine was a towering fortress of metal and energy, with huge, rotating turrets and flashing lights. To the humans, it seemed almost surreal. Sergeant Reynolds couldn't help but crack a joke to lighten the atmosphere. "Looks like they've sent us a giant space bulldozer. Do you think it comes with a squishes button?" The room erupted into nervous laughter. Colonel Thompson smiled but remained focused. "Let's not underestimate it," he said. "We need to be ready for anything." Meanwhile, General Zarn's warship initiated the final countdown to launch. The beast's enormous engines roared to life, and the machine began its descent towards Earth. The alien commander watched with anticipation as the beast broke through the atmosphere, its massive frame casting a shadow over the planet below. On the ground, the human forces were busy putting their plan into action. They had set up a network of sensors, traps, and defensive positions around key locations. Their aim was to outsmart the beast, using tactics that would exploit its weaknesses. Colonel Thompson addressed his team once more. "We've seen what the beast can do. Now it's time to show them what we can do. Stick to the plan and stay sharp." As the beast made its way through Earth's atmosphere, its presence became even more imposing. From the ground, it looked like a colossal metal giant, slowly descending with a thunderous roar. The sight was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. Buildings and forests seemed tiny in comparison, and the sheer scale of the beast was overwhelming. The alien forces cheered as the beast touched down on a desolate plain. They were eager to see their weapon in action, and were confident it would decimate the human defenses effortlessly. The alien troops prepared for the command to advance, eager to witness the destruction they had been promised. On Earth, the humans were about to put their strategy to the test. Colonel Thompson and his team watched nervously as the beast's massive legs began to move. The machine's first target was a set of remote sensors placed by the humans. The beast's sensors quickly picked up the location of these devices, and its powerful cannons fired with precision, destroying them in seconds. The human team observed the destruction on their screens. Sergeant Reynolds frowned. "Looks like they're not wasting any time. But we knew this was coming." Colonel Thompson nodded. "That's why we've prepared. Let's see how they handle our next move." The human forces had set up a series of decoys and traps to confuse the beast. As the machine advanced, it encountered a series of fake targets and misleading signals. The beast's advanced sensors struggled to distinguish between real threats and the cleverly designed illusions. The alien troops grew increasingly frustrated as their weapon wasted energy on empty targets. Back in the alien command center, General Zarn's frustration began to show. He watched as the beast's weapons fired at decoys and traps, and his confidence started to waver. "What is happening?" he demanded, his voice tinged with irritation. "Why isn't the beast making more progress?" One of his aides spoke up. "General, it seems the humans have set up some kind of trickery. Their defenses are more complex than we anticipated." Zarn's eyes narrowed. "Increase power to the main cannons. We need to break through their defenses quickly." Despite the alien commander's commands, the beast continued to face challenges. The humans' strategy was working. They used their knowledge of the terrain and their understanding of the beast's limitations to their advantage. Each time the machine destroyed a target, it was met with another clever trick. The initial awe and fear of the beast were slowly replaced by a growing sense of determination among the human forces. Colonel Thompson's strategy was proving effective, and the humans were starting to feel confident. They knew they had a long fight ahead, but they were ready to face the challenge head-on. As the battle progressed, the beast's imposing presence became a symbol of the struggle between human ingenuity and alien power. The fight was far from over, but the humans were determined to show that they could overcome even the most fearsome adversaries with their cleverness and courage. In the alien command center, General Zarn watched the battle unfold with growing concern. His confidence in the beast was starting to waver, and he realized that this was not going to be an easy victory. The challenge had just begun, and the outcome was far from certain. The first encounter, the sky above Earth was darkened by the immense shadow of the beast as it loomed over the battlefield. Its engines rumbled like distant thunder, shaking the ground with each step it took. The alien forces, confident in their weapons' power, were poised for what they believed would be a quick victory. On the ground, the human forces were ready for their first real test against this formidable machine. Colonel Thompson and his team stood in their command center, their faces illuminated by the flickering lights of the screens in front of them. The monitors displayed live footage of the beast advancing, its massive frame cutting a path through the terrain. The humans had set up defensive positions and traps around the area, but now it was time to see if their plans would hold up against the alien juggernaut. "Everyone, listen up," Thompson said, his voice steady but carrying an edge of urgency. "We've prepared for this moment. Our strategy relies on our ability to adapt and respond quickly. Let's stay focused and be ready for anything." The team nodded, their expressions a mix of determination and apprehension. Sergeant Reynolds, who had been joking earlier, now wore a serious look. "Ready to see what that pup can do?" she asked, her tone firm. The first clash came when the beast reached one of the humans' carefully set traps. As the machine moved forward, its sensors detected a false signal, leading it into a well-concealed pit. The ground beneath the beast gave way, and the massive war machine stumbled into the trap. Its enormous legs flailed as it tried to regain balance, and its powerful thrusters fired in an attempt to lift it out. The alien forces aboard the beast reacted with alarm. General Zarn watched the scene unfold with growing frustration. "What's happening? Why is the beast not moving?" he barked at his aides. "They've prepared traps, General." "It seems they've managed to ensnare the beast," one of his officers replied, trying to remain calm. General Zarn clenched his fists. "Increase power to the thrusters. We must get the beast back on track." On the ground, the humans watched with a mix of excitement and anxiety. The trap had worked, but they knew it was only the beginning. As the beast struggled to free itself, Colonel Thompson ordered his team to prepare for the next phase of their strategy. "Now's our chance. Let's see how well they handle a little surprise," Thompson said, signaling his team to activate their next defensive measure. The human forces deployed a series of EMP devices that had been specially designed to interfere with the beast's electronics. As the devices were triggered, they sent powerful electromagnetic pulses towards the machine. The pulses disrupted the beast's systems, causing its weapons and sensors to malfunction. Inside the beast, the alien troops were thrown into chaos. Lights flickered and screens went dark. General Zarn's face grew red with anger as he watched his weapons struggle. "What are they doing to our systems? Restore functionality immediately," he ordered. As the alien engineers worked frantically to fix the problems, the humans seized the opportunity. They launched a coordinated assault, using precision weapons to target the beast's vulnerable areas. The attacks were designed to exploit the weaknesses in the machine's armor and structure. The beast, despite its enormous size and power, was not invulnerable. The human team's precise strikes began to show results. Smoke billowed from the damaged areas, and the once imposing war machine started to show signs of strain. Colonel Thompson watched the battle with a mix of relief and cautious optimism. "They're making progress, but we can't get complacent. Keep up the pressure and stay sharp," he instructed his team. The battle was fierce and dynamic. The beast's weapons roared as it fought back, firing massive energy blasts in retaliation. The ground shook with each shot, and the air was filled with the sounds of explosions and the clash of metal. The alien troops, though initially confident, were now struggling to regain control of the situation. The humans, however, were determined. They had anticipated that the beast would be a tough opponent, but they were not deterred. Their strategy was working, and they continued to adapt to the evolving situation. Sergeant Reynolds, firing her weapon with precision, shouted to her comrades, "Keep targeting the weak points. We're making a difference." As the hours passed, the battle raged on. The beast, once a symbol of invincible power, was now a beleaguered giant. The alien forces were beginning to realize that the human defenders were not to be underestimated. General Zarn, watching from his command center, was seething with frustration. He had underestimated the humans' ability to fight back, and now the beast was showing the strain. "We must turn this around," Zarn growled. "Reinforce the damaged areas and increase the attack on their positions. We cannot let them win." The final moments of the encounter were tense. The beast, despite its damage and the ongoing counterattacks from the humans, fought fiercely. The clash between the alien machine and the human defenders reached a climax as both sides pushed their limits. In the end, the beast was forced to retreat, its systems severely damaged, and its mission thwarted. The alien forces withdrew, their morale shaken. The humans, though exhausted, celebrated their hard-fought victory. The first encounter had shown them that they could stand up to even the most formidable opponents with courage and ingenuity. Colonel Thompson and his team gathered to debrief after the battle. "We've proven that we can take on even the most powerful weapons," he said, his voice filled with pride. "But we need to stay vigilant. This is just the beginning." The humans had faced their first real test against the beast, and they had emerged victorious. The battle had been fierce, but their resilience and resourcefulness had turned the tide. As the dust settled and the alien forces retreated, the human defenders knew that they had achieved something significant. The challenge was far from over, but they were ready to face whatever came next with the same determination and spirit that had carried them through the first encounter. The alien commander's frustration. In the cold, dimly lit command center of the alien warship, General Zarn seethed with anger. The victory he had expected was slipping through his fingers. His great weapon, the beast, had been forced into retreat, and the humans had managed to inflict significant damage. Zarn's normally calm demeanor was now a storm of frustration and rage. Zarn paced back and forth, his heavy footsteps echoing through the metallic corridors of the ship. The walls, lined with screens and controls, seemed to close in on him. His usually confident posture was replaced by a tense, rigid stance. The general's aides and officers watched in silence, their faces showing concern and nervousness. "Report!" Zarn barked, his voice sharp and demanding. He turned to an officer who was frantically typing at a console. "What went wrong? Why was the beast forced to withdraw?" The officer looked up, trying to keep his voice steady. "General, the humans deployed unexpected EMP devices. Our systems were severely disrupted. We had trouble regaining control, and their attacks exploited the weaknesses in the beast's armor." Zarn's eyes narrowed. "How did they manage to set up such effective defenses?" "Our intelligence indicated no advanced preparations. We underestimated their capabilities," the officer admitted. "They were more prepared than we anticipated. Their tactics were clever and adaptive." Zarn slammed his fist onto a nearby control panel, causing sparks to fly. "We should have crushed them easily. I will not tolerate failure." He glared at the officers around him. "Increase the power to the repair units. We need the beast operational again, and we need it now." As the repair team scrambled to address the damage, Zarn's frustration turned inward. He had prided himself on his strategic prowess and the might of his weapon, but the human defenders had outmaneuvered him. The battle had not gone as he had planned, and the setback was a blow to his ego. In the alien command center, the tension was palpable. The officers moved quickly to follow Zarn's orders, but the general's anger was a cloud hanging over them. They worked in silence, knowing better than to add to the general's irritation with unnecessary chatter. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Colonel Thompson and his team were assessing the aftermath of the battle. The command center was filled with a mix of relief and exhaustion. The humans had succeeded in pushing back the beast, but they knew that the alien forces would not give up easily. Thompson reviewed the data from the battle and looked at his team. "We managed to hold our ground, but the aliens will regroup and come back stronger. We need to prepare for their next move." Sergeant Reynolds nodded. "We should analyze their tactics and see if we can predict their next steps. We've shown them that we can fight back, but we need to be ready for whatever comes next." Back on the alien warship, Zarn was not in a mood for calm or rationality. He had ordered the repair crews to work faster, their efficiency tested by the urgency of the situation. The general's face was a mask of anger as he watched the screens displaying the ongoing repairs. One of Zarn's senior officers approached cautiously. "General, we've repaired the major damage, but the technicians are still working on some critical systems. We estimate it will take several hours to be fully operational again." Zarn's frustration boiled over. "Several hours? We don't have that kind of time! The humans will be preparing for our next attack. We must strike back immediately." The officer hesitated. "General, if we rush the repairs, we risk further damaging the beast. It is already unstable. We need to ensure its full functionality before deploying it again." Zarn clenched his teeth. "I don't care about stability. I want results now. If the beast isn't ready, I'll make sure the repair teams understand the consequences." The senior officer nodded, backing away quickly. The repair crews worked with renewed urgency, trying to meet Zarn's demands despite the mounting pressure. Back on Earth, the human forces were also preparing for the next phase of the conflict. Colonel Thompson's team worked on fortifying their defenses and refining their strategies. They knew that the beast would return, and they needed to be ready. Thompson gathered his team for a briefing. "The aliens are not going to give up easily. We've seen their power, and we've proven that we can hold our ground. But we need to stay one step ahead. Let's analyze the data and make sure we're prepared for whatever they throw at us next." The team agreed, their determination strengthened by their recent victory. They worked late into the night, developing new tactics and preparing for the alien assault. Meanwhile, General Zarn's anger was not easily quelled. He continued to fume as he paced the command center, waiting for the beast to be fully operational. His mind was consumed with thoughts of revenge and the need to restore his pride. The setback had only fueled his determination to crush the human resistance. As the repairs continued, Zarn's thoughts were a whirlwind of strategies and calculations. He knew that the next attack had to be decisive. He couldn't afford another failure. The stakes were too high, and his reputation was on the line. The hours passed, and the beast's repair teams worked tirelessly. Zarn's impatience grew, but he remained resolute in his goal. He would not allow the humans to defeat him. He would use all his resources and cunning to ensure that the beast would return stronger and more formidable than ever before. As the repairs neared completion, Zarn's frustration began to subside, replaced by a renewed focus. He would unleash the beast again, and this time he would make sure that the humans would not stand a chance. The battle was far from over, and General Zarn was determined to win, no matter the cost. The turning point. The night was quiet, a rare calm before the storm. On Earth, the human forces were preparing for the inevitable return of the beast. Colonel Thompson's team was focused, their preparations meticulous. They knew that the next battle would be crucial and were determined to outmaneuver their alien adversaries. Inside the command center, Thompson reviewed the data from the previous encounter. The screens displayed maps, tactical diagrams, and real-time updates. The earlier victory had been significant, but it was clear that the next attack would be even more intense. "We need to anticipate their strategies," Thompson said to his team. "They'll come back with everything they've got. We've got to be ready. Sergeant Reynolds was busy working on a new defensive system. We're adding extra layers to our defenses and setting up additional traps. We need to make sure they don't get through. The team was working tirelessly, their focus unwavering. Outside, the first light of dawn began to break, but there was no sign of the impending attack. The calm before the storm felt almost eerie. Meanwhile, on the alien warship, General Zarn's frustration had transformed into a steely resolve. The beast was fully repaired, its systems back online and more powerful than ever. Zarn was determined to make up for the previous defeat and reclaim his lost honor. "Prepare for the assault," Zarn ordered his officers. "We will strike at dawn. This time, we will not give them a chance to fight back." The alien forces moved into position, their massive war machine ready to unleash its full might. The ground trembled as the beast was deployed, its engines roaring with renewed power. The alien troops, armed and ready, followed closely behind, their morale bolstered by the sight of their nearly indestructible weapon. As the sun rose, the human defenders spotted the incoming threat. The beast was larger and more intimidating than before, its armor gleaming with a dangerous sheen. The aliens had clearly made adjustments and improvements, but the humans were not deterred. "Here they come," Reynolds shouted as she observed the approaching army through her binoculars. "Prepare the defenses." Colonel Thompson's team activated their new traps and fortifications. They had learned from their previous encounter and were ready to face the enhanced threat. The battlefield was a mix of trenches, barricades, and hidden explosive devices. The beast approached with a menacing roar. Its energy weapons were primed, and its thrusters blazed with power. Zarn watched from a vantage point, his eyes fixed on the battlefield. He was confident that this time his forces would succeed. The first clash was intense. The beast unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, shaking the ground and creating a massive dust cloud. The human defenders were momentarily blinded, but they quickly recovered and began returning fire. Thompson coordinated the defense from the command center, issuing orders with calm precision. "Hold the line! Focus on the weak spots!" The new traps and defensive systems were put to the test. Explosive devices detonated, and EMP pulses were fired, disrupting the beast's systems once again. Zarn's frustration grew as his weapons struggled to maintain control. "Reinforce the front lines," Zarn barked. "We cannot afford to be pushed back again." Despite the alien commander's orders, the human strategy was working. The beast's armor was beginning to show signs of damage, and its energy blasts were less accurate. The human forces pressed their advantage, targeting the weakened areas with precision. In the heat of the battle, Colonel Thompson noticed a crucial shift. The beast's movements were becoming erratic, and the once unstoppable machine seemed to be faltering. "This is our chance," Thompson said, his voice filled with determination. "Push forward." The human troops, inspired by their leader's words, launched a coordinated counterattack. They moved quickly, using every available weapon and tactic to exploit the beast's vulnerabilities. The battle was fierce, but the momentum was shifting in their favor. Zarn watched in disbelief as his once mighty weapon began to falter. The beast's systems were failing, and the alien forces were struggling to maintain their position. Zarn's frustration turned to desperation. "No! This cannot be happening!" Zarn shouted, his voice echoing through the command center. "We must turn this around." The alien forces, already demoralized, were further affected by the sight of the beast's decline. The humans' relentless assault had turned the tide of the battle. The once confident alien troops were now retreating, their morale shattered. As the beast staggered under the relentless assault, Zarn's orders became frantic. "Retreat! Fall back! We need to regroup." The retreat was chaotic. The alien forces scrambled to withdraw, leaving behind damaged equipment and fallen comrades. The beast, heavily damaged, was abandoned as the aliens fled the battlefield. On Earth, the human defenders watched in awe as the alien forces retreated. The battle was over, and the humans had emerged victorious once again. The turning point had come, and their resilience had paid off. Colonel Thompson and his team gathered to assess the aftermath. "We did it," Thompson said, his voice filled with pride. "We turned the tide and held our ground." The team cheered, their exhaustion forgotten in the face of their hard-earned victory. They had faced the toughest challenge yet and had come out on top. Back on the alien warship, General Zarn's frustration was at its peak. The retreat had been a disastrous failure, and his plans had been thwarted. He knew that the next steps would be crucial in regaining his lost honor and restoring his reputation. The turning point had been reached, and the battle was far from over. The humans had proven their strength, but the aliens were not finished. As Zarn plotted his next move, both sides prepared for the ongoing conflict, knowing that the struggle for victory was far from over. The final confrontation. The sky was darkening as night fell over the battlefield. The previous encounters had been fierce, but now both sides were preparing for a final showdown. On Earth, the atmosphere was tense but filled with resolve. Colonel Thompson and his team had fought hard, and they knew this would be the ultimate test of their strength and strategy. In the command center, Thompson gathered his team for one last briefing. The screen showed updated intelligence and battle plans. "This is it," Thompson said, his voice steady. "The aliens will come at us with everything they've got. We need to be ready for anything." Sergeant Reynolds looked over the maps, her face serious. "We've reinforced our defenses and set up new traps. We're as prepared as we can be." The team nodded in agreement. Each member had their role, and they were ready to carry out their tasks. Outside, the defenses were fortified, and the area was buzzing with activity. The human forces were on high alert, their eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of the alien assault. On the alien warship, General Zarn was equally focused. His frustration from the previous defeat had hardened into a grim determination. The beast was repaired and ready for action, and Zarn intended to make sure that this time there would be no mistakes. "Prepare for the final assault," Zarn ordered his officers. "We will break through their defenses and secure our victory. Make sure the beast is fully operational." The alien forces moved into position, their massive war machine leading the charge. The beast, with its armor gleaming ominously, was at the forefront. The alien troops followed, their faces set with determination. They were ready for a decisive confrontation. As the first light of dawn broke, the aliens began their advance. The beast roared to life, its weapons primed for action. The ground shook as it moved, and the alien forces surged forward. The final battle had begun. Colonel Thompson and his team watched the approaching enemy through their scopes. The sight of the beast and the alien army was both daunting and motivating. "Everyone take your positions," Thompson commanded. "This is the moment we've been preparing for." The human defenders braced themselves. The newly added traps and defensive systems were activated, ready to face the oncoming assault. The battle was intense from the start. The beast unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, shaking the earth and sending shockwaves through the defenses. The human forces retaliated with everything they had, their weapons blazing in a desperate attempt to hold their ground. Sergeant Reynolds managed the defensive systems, her fingers flying over the controls. "They're hitting hard," she reported, "but our defenses are holding. Keep pushing back." The human forces fought fiercely, their determination evident in every action. They used their traps strategically, creating explosions and sending EMP pulses to disrupt the beast's systems. The battle was a chaotic mix of explosions, gunfire, and desperate maneuvers. Inside the command center, Thompson watched the battle unfold. The situation was dire, but the humans were managing to hold their ground. "We've got to keep the pressure on them," he said. "We can't let up now. The alien forces were not backing down." General Zarn was leading the charge, his face set with a fierce determination. He watched as the beast took hits from the human defenses, but he refused to let the situation deter him. "Push forward," he shouted. "We will break through their defenses and claim victory." The beast was taking significant damage, but it continued to advance. The alien troops followed closely, their resolve unshaken. Zarn knew that the final confrontation was critical. He needed to ensure that the beast broke through the human lines and secured the victory. As the battle raged on, Zarn's frustration began to grow. Despite the alien force's relentless assault, the human defenders were proving to be a formidable opponent. The beast was showing signs of wear, its movements becoming sluggish and its weapons less effective. "We need to reinforce the front lines," Zarn ordered urgently. "Send in additional forces." "We cannot afford to lose this battle," the alien forces responded, pushing harder against the human defenses. The intensity of the fight reached new heights as both sides fought tooth and nail for victory. The battlefield was a tumult of noise and chaos, with each side struggling to gain the upper hand. Colonel Thompson and his team continued to fight with unwavering determination. They coordinated their efforts, using every tactic and strategy at their disposal. The human forces were pushed to their limits, but they refused to give up. "We're holding them back!" Reynolds shouted. "Keep up the pressure. We're almost there." Despite the relentless assault, the humans managed to maintain their defenses. The beast was now heavily damaged, its systems failing under the sustained attack. The alien forces were beginning to falter, their morale slipping as they saw their weapon of choice struggling to hold its ground. Zarn's frustration reached its peak. The battle was not going as planned, and his forces were struggling. "Retreat," he ordered. "We need to regroup and reassess our strategy." The order to retreat was met with confusion and reluctance. The alien forces, already demoralized, began to withdraw. The beast, severely damaged, was abandoned as the aliens fell back. As the alien forces retreated, the human defenders erupted in cheers. The final confrontation had been won, and the humans had triumphed once again. The battlefield, once filled with chaos and destruction, was now quiet, save for the sounds of victory. Colonel Thompson and his team surveyed the aftermath. The victory was hard-earned, but it was a testament to their courage and resilience. "We did it," Thompson said, a sense of relief in his voice. "We faced the final confrontation and came out on top." The team celebrated their success, knowing that their efforts had made a significant impact. The final battle had been intense, but their determination and teamwork had prevailed. On the alien warship, General Zarn brooded over the defeat. The loss was a severe blow to his plans and his pride. He knew that the conflict was far from over, but the humans had proven themselves to be a formidable adversary. The final confrontation had marked a turning point, and both sides would need to prepare for the ongoing struggle ahead. Aftermath and reflection. The sun rose over the battlefield, casting a soft light on the devastation left by the recent clash. The final confrontation had ended, and both sides were left to deal with the aftermath. The air was heavy with the scent of smoke and the sound of distant alarms. As the alien forces retreated, the humans began to assess their situation and reflect on the events that had transpired. Colonel Thompson and his team stood amidst the ruins, their faces weary but resolute. The battlefield was littered with debris, and the remnants of the beast lay in a twisted heap. The humans had won, but the cost was evident in the scattered wreckage and the exhaustion of the defenders. Thompson looked around at his team, his expression a mix of relief and fatigue. "We did it," he said, his voice filled with quiet pride. "We held our ground and defeated them." Sergeant Reynolds nodded, wiping sweat from her brow. "It was a tough fight, but we managed to keep them at bay. Our defenses held up better than I expected." The team worked together to clear the battlefield and tend to the wounded. Medics moved quickly, treating injuries and providing aid to those in need. The human forces had suffered losses, but their determination had been unwavering. As the day wore on, the command center was filled with activity. Reports were being compiled, and the team was busy analyzing the data from the battle. The victory was significant, but there were lessons to be learned and strategies to be reviewed. In the command center, Thompson gathered his key officers for a debriefing. "We need to understand what worked and what didn't," he said. "This battle was a turning point, and we need to be prepared for what comes next." Lieutenant Harris, who had been instrumental in the defense strategy, spoke up. "Our new traps and defensive systems were effective, but we need to consider how we can further improve them. The beast was formidable, but we managed to exploit its weaknesses." The team agreed that the battle had been a learning experience. They reviewed the data, noting the strengths and weaknesses of their tactics. The success of their defensive systems had been crucial, but there were areas where they could make improvements. Outside, the mood was a mix of relief and contemplation. The soldiers who had fought bravely were taking a moment to reflect on the battle. Some gathered in small groups, discussing their experiences and the intense moments they had faced. Private Adams, a young soldier who had been on the front lines, sat quietly by himself. He looked at the remnants of the battlefield, his mind replaying the events of the past few days. The fight had been fierce, but the victory had come at a cost. His friend, Corporal Jenkins, joined him and sat down beside him. "You all right, Adams?" Jenkins asked gently. Adams nodded slowly. "Yeah. just thinking about everything. It was tough out there, but we pulled through. Jenkins placed a reassuring hand on Adams's shoulder. We did, and we learned a lot. It's important to remember what we've been through and how we made it through together. As the day turned into evening, the human forces began to regroup and rebuild. The immediate danger had passed, but the conflict was far from over. The aliens had retreated, but they would likely return, and the humans needed to be ready. In the command center, Thompson received a message from higher command. The message commended the team for their bravery and success, but also warned that the war was not yet won. "We've made significant progress," Thompson said, reading the message aloud, "but we need to stay vigilant. The aliens will regroup and come at us again.